So I'm Lindsey Barta, and I'm 21 years old, and I'm living in Cincinnati. I'm a student at UC studying organizational leadership, and I graduate in December. Woo! So, married life and being a college student is definitely different, but not as different as you would think that it might be. And I think that I almost anticipated that a little bit because someone said to me before I got married, and I was like asking someone else who was married as a student, I was asking her like all sorts of questions, and she was like, logistically not much changes except that you have a different roommate and oftentimes less roommates, and there's less like roommate drama in your life because it can be challenging to live with like multiple people. And honestly, I found that to be true. Like, I still live in a house off campus like I did last year. I just have a roommate that I love a lot, and so that's nice because I get to come home to someone who's like really supportive and really loving. But other than that, like college is still really similar. And I don't feel like I'm a married person and then a student. Like that life, like my life is meshed well. Like I don't feel like there's like I'm living like double lives or something, which is helpful. And I think that helps because my husband works Kyle works on campus like most of the time, and like we work in a similar community of people, so there's not much like separation there. It's just like we're just doing the same things that we did when we were like dating. So I like that a lot because it makes me feel like my life is like consistent and stable. So yeah, I just do normal student things and then come home and continue doing normal student things. So yeah, I don't know. I like it a lot. It is, honestly, there is less like roommate drama, and it's kind of fun to like have a place that I really feel like is our home, as opposed to like living in a house that I live in with like 6 other people, or living on campus or something like that. Like, I think one thing that's different is having like a home, and that's fun. So that's kind of cool. It just feels like cozier, and it's fun to like invite people over into that. Yeah, so probably a lot. A lot in terms of just like job and career wise, because I'm applying for grad school, but that won't start until next fall. Whether I get in or not is up in the air, but either way, I can't like go after a full-time position until I know whether I'm in grad school or not, and that's not due until like February. Graduating December won't like so my spring and summer is kind of up in the air, but I'm looking at just like probably an internship of some sort, and I'm open to where that is and what's going on. That will not be crazy different than like the norm. Like this summer I worked an internship, so it'll kind of just be like transitioning back into work life, so that won't be different. Not sure what the summer holds, probably still same old. But then if I do get into grad school, that'll be like different, but also not different. Like in some ways that'll be like more of the same, but in other ways, like grad school could be more challenging. Hypothetically should be more challenging, but also I'll be doing things that I know that I like. So I don't know, that's a toss up there in terms of what that will be like. So it's like kind of yes, because I'm graduating and probably working full time, but that's something that I've done before. All other things constant. So it's like.
Would you apply to somewhere like far away?
Honestly, literally the only place I'm applying is UC. It's the communication program at UC. In part because we just bought this house, so and Kyle's work is here, so and I'm invested in this community. I love Cincinnati, so like we're here. Also, the main reason I'm applying to grad school is not just because I like the idea of grad school, but I specifically like this program at UC. Because if I get it, I have the opportunity, probably, most likely, to get a graduate assistantship and teach like a section of public speaking. So that's unique and cool, because then I would get to feel out whether, do I like teaching? Do I want to use this degree for teaching? Do I want to use this degree for, to reel back into nonprofit work? So that's special and unique. I love the faculty in this program, and I have a lot of respect for them already, and they build the program is focused a lot on like those relationships and that like mentorship. So I really respect that. So it's like less that I just like want a degree really bad and more like, dang, I see a lot of opportunity in this specific program. So that's what I'm going to go for. So right now, I'll graduate with a Bachelor of Arts in Organizational Leadership with a minor in Communication. And so I would be applying for grad school for a Master's of Arts in Communication. Mostly because I love organizational leadership. I love learning about the way that organizations function and leadership in itself. But when I picked up my minor in Communication, like strangely enough, even though I only picked that up in the last 2 years, those have been the classes where I've really loved and really like thrived in, or like just the different like, I don't know, communication theory stuff and just communication in general. Like that's been the stuff that I really latch on to, even in the context of leadership. Like communication is obviously a huge part of leadership, and I see that, and that's what I really love. So yeah, organizational leadership will be the degree, and then I'll pursue more of the communication stuff. I think that in terms of what my expectations were like when I was in high school for where I would be at this point, I think that some things are pretty, like I might have anticipated, some things definitely not. I definitely would not have anticipated that I would be married at this point, definitely not. I definitely thought that that wouldn't come until after I graduated. But in terms of career-wise, I think that I'm almost where I thought that I would be, except for the grad school piece. So I've kind of gone through school, I've done a couple study abroad things, I've done, several internship opportunities, and I think that I anticipated and hoped at least that kind of stuff would happen. I didn't know where that would guide. Like I knew that I wanted to do those things, didn't know where those things would guide me, but hoped that they would kind of give me some clarity. I think that I knew in high school, because I started working with like a nonprofit back then and got really active in like FCCLA and stuff. I think I knew that I liked nonprofit even then, and was wondering like, is this going to be something that like ends up being career worthy, or is this just going to be something that's like a hobby side kind of thing? So at that point I didn't know. But I see now that it's definitely something that has the potential to be something that's very connected with my career. I did not see grad school coming until like a month and a half ago. I just didn't think that was something that I was interested in. But as I've gotten closer to this time, as I get nearer to graduation and stuff, and just looking at like, okay, what are my options? What's available to me? I really saw that would open up a lot of opportunities in terms of like if I do want to teach in higher education, or even just being a more valuable asset in like a nonprofit. So I'm kind of using that to keep my options open. Definitely did not think that I would do that way back when. I do think that the one thing that is different is that I foresaw myself graduating. I actually had this Prezi. I remember sitting freshman year and like I was like, I need to get my life together. And so I made this like Prezi that documented the things that I was going to do each year of college, like in terms of opportunities and like stuff like that.
You would totally do
yeah, it was super nerdy.
I didn't know that.
I was sitting in our living room when I did that for a couple hours, and I actually like stuck to that kind of like my first couple years. Like I did a study abroad opportunity, I did an internship opportunity, I kind of like stuck to that. But at that time, I guess now that I'm even processing this, I'm realizing some of the expectations that I did have that are now different. I think at that time I thought that I was going to take the human resources track of my major, and I ended up going the nonprofit track instead. But at that time I was thinking about doing a 5+1 program or 4+1 program, and which would get me I would graduate with my bachelor's and then get my master's, but it would have to be in human resources. And I realized that I did not like the human resources aspect of that. And so I reeled that in and stuck with my org leadership major, but kind of cut off that track. So at that time, that was one of the things that was on there, like, oh, I'll get my master's, do this 4+1. Peace Corps was on there, volunteering abroad. Like I just had I wasn't grounded anywhere yet, so I was like, oh, I'll probably just do all these different things. I didn't know what I was gonna do. PhD possibly, and like all sorts of random things were on there. And I think the reason that changed is because at that time I wasn't invested anywhere, and I didn't know where I was going to be invested, and I just wanted to do something. And I thought at that time that my best opportunity for that was like Peace Corps, doing it abroad, doing a master's in human resources. And once I got grounded and invested in this community and started seeing like, oh, I can do worthwhile things here. Imagine that. That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think once, that started happening, the less the ideas of like going abroad or doing the Peace Corps, those things kind of started to dwindle. Those things would still be awesome. But I see now that like I can do stuff here. Like I can make an impact here. I'm also married, so that also impacts that. But I think even before that, those desires, my 5th year, my graduation beyond bubble of that like weird prezi was just full of like all sorts of random things, because I wanted purpose. And I found that purpose can actually be here. Like it doesn't have to be in far off places and stuff like that. So I think that's one thing that has changed from my expectation, just because at that time, I didn't know where my purpose would lie, and I thought it was like out in the beyond. And now that I see that it's like, oh, I can do the stuff that I want to do here. So that's cool. So in terms of the study abroad experiences I've done 3 while I've been at college. And there are lots of things that I learned and lots of things that I gathered from those experiences. And what's cool is that they're all really different. Like some of them weren't even study abroad, they were just experiences abroad, but I still learned a lot from them. So the first one is in the second semester of my freshman year, I went to Peru for 10 days. So that was just a short-term faculty-led program where I was part of a class, and that class culminated in us like going on a trip to learn about the things that we talked about all class long. And so a lot of that was cultural experiences. We went to Machu Picchu, which was awesome. We learned about the civil war basically that had been occurring in Peru that I had no idea was going on. And then part of that was also visiting like different NGOs and seeing, the class was called like change makers. So the idea was that we were visiting places in Peru that were really making an impact in that country and doing different things. So that trip was awesome because I got to see really awesome places. I mean, Machu Picchu, like, that's on so many people's bucket list. So that was awesome.
Did you like take anything from that trip and apply it to whatever you're doing today? Either like career-wise or just on a personal level.
Sure. I think the biggest thing is the impact that, like seeing the impact of NGOs, like nonprofits in different countries, was just kind of like changed my perception of nonprofits in general. I didn't really know much about nonprofits at that time except the experience that I had with like a youth leadership nonprofit. And the kind of work that nonprofits are doing in Peru, like saving lives, providing education, trying to bring harmony to political stuff, like, I don't know, that just opened my mind to like, dang, there are a lot of options in terms of the things that you're passionate about. Like you can take that almost anywhere. So I learned a lot in terms of like nonprofits and just about different countries. That was the first time I've been out of the country and been to a place and really witnessed poverty. We saw a lot of poverty, and to see it at that magnitude was just, I feel like everyone needs to experience that and see that at some point in their lives. And for me, that was just the eye-opening experience of like, people live like this. Like this is their house. This is like 4 pieces of wood and this is their house. So that was really valuable and something that I think has helped me to be more of a global citizen. People throw that word around now and like, I don't know, it's one of those buzzwords, but it's something that like really changed my perspective, I guess. The second experience was actually more of a mission trip, and we went to Costa Rica and we're like partnered with a church there. The biggest thing, I feel like that was a super impactful trip, like honestly spiritually but also career-wise, because I learned a lot. Again, my mindset about nonprofits changed, and we worked with a church who was basically like an aid program on the ground, and I realized how harmful it can be Like if we were to do that mission trip alone without the church that was there in Costa Rica, like if we would have just been a group of basically white teenagers, like walking into that country and trying to fix things, like I realized how much harm you actually do that way. Like coming in as like the supremacist and like trying to fix things and like, oh, we understand your problems, like let's, let us fix you, basically. And I realized how much harm that can cause. And I realized that because the opposite of that is what occurred, and that we were just like humble servants, like working alongside the church that was doing a really awesome job there. Like their local leaders were the ones making the change, and we just got to go and be like, hey, tell us what you're doing, help us help you for these 10 days. Like we're not going to make a change, but we can encourage you and do what we can to come alongside your project. You're not going to change anything in like 10 days, but you can work alongside people that probably will change a lot of things in the time that they're working there. So I just learned a lot about the value of like foreign aid having to come alongside and gain local like empowerment. That has changed like a lot of my perceptions and a lot of my understanding of nonprofits and foreign aid and stuff like that. And that was just like a lot of fun. And Costa Rica is a beautiful country, so. And then the last one that I did was probably the most unique, and it was an internship mission trip thing. I don't know. Basically, my friend and I, we went and lived with a missionary family in Togo, West Africa for 6 weeks. And again, that kind of affirmed what I learned in Costa Rica, that like we're not going to change anything in Togo, and like to fix the poverty, to fix the political corruption, to fix I don't know, the darkness there. Like we can't do anything in 6 weeks. But we lived with a family who was making fantastic strides. And to be able to be there, like I thought we were going to go in there and build things and do awesome things. And honestly, it was really humbling to realize like we're actually not. Like we're not going to leave here having made a huge impact. But what we can do and what emerged as our purpose was just to like really encourage that family that we were working with. The wife was from America, hadn't been home in several years. So for her, just spending time with two American people who understood her longings and the things that she missed about home, and just be able to talk about home was really encouraging to her. And our host dad loved to talk about American politics, and no one else there wanted to talk about American politics. And just to be able to encourage them and come alongside what they were doing was really cool. Learned a ton just from like being abroad, and just learned a ton from them. But again, the biggest thing I took away from that was just affirming that like, man, foreign aid has to come from, like, it has to be about empowering local people and using people who are stationed there, who live there, who understand the problems. It has to be about coming alongside them. Because before that, I thought like, oh, this is awesome. This is stuff that I want to do, like foreign aid and like fixing things around the world. And it's like, I can't just walk in and fix something. Like I have to be alongside people who actually understand the issues. So I feel like that's changed a lot of my understanding of things going on abroad. And it's cool how all those experiences were super different, but kind of work together in like changing and helping develop what I know now about nonprofits and organizations and just, what goes on around the globe. So. I mean, obviously there have been a lot of things that have shaped who I am. Family's a big part of that. That's classic. Like my family is really awesome, and I feel like I grew up in like a safe, loving, good environment that put me in a good spot. Like I feel like I grew up knowing that the world was my oyster and I could go after things and I was supported in my dreams. And a lot of people aren't. And so I know that was not only a blessing, but also probably plays more of a subconscious impact than I would ever be able to imagine. Like I feel like that has helped me a ton and can just have a huge impact in terms of like what we think we can do, what we think about ourselves. And I feel like most of those things for me have been positive because of like my upbringing and stuff. So I'm really thankful for that. And thus I came to college, I don't know, like excited about the opportunity. My dad would say to people like, some people see college is like a necessary evil, and he's like, but I think Lindsey's genuinely excited about it. and I really was. Like, I was genuinely excited about being able to have the opportunity. I think one of the big things that shaped me in high school was just this opportunity I had with FCCLA, which is just like a youth leadership organization. And I kind of got to rise through the ranks of FCCLA as I went throughout high school, like working at a chapter level and then a state level and then a national level. And I was actually just pondering this the other day, like, I realize now how overhyped that was. Like, me and the other students who were in that role, like, we really, like, felt empowered and really felt like we were feeling ourselves, like, we were like, dang, like, we worked so hard to get here, like, this is awesome, we're, like, making an impact, we're, like, student leaders, and when I look back on that, I realized that, like, okay, we didn't actually necessarily do, like, a ton in terms of, like, changing the world in youth leadership. But what that did do is that personally I felt really empowered, and really, like, that experience helped me to feel like my skills were, like, revealed. Like, it showed me kind of what my strengths and weaknesses were, because I was working with this team really closely, and we were trying to do things at the national level of this organization. I was speaking and doing workshops at things and leadership things, and it really just gave me a cool foundational set of skills for, like, time management and, professionalism and stuff like that really was, like, really shaped me a lot in terms of, like, as a professional and stuff like that. And that team of people was just really encouraging to me, and, like, kind of made me feel like I really had a place in that team, and showed me that, like, I can really be the glue of a group of people, and I like to keep harmony, and so I can be kind of like a peacemaker and someone who kind of rounds out a group in that kind of way. So they really showed me, like, what my skills are, and, like, helped me to see that. And so I think I went into college, like, feeling pretty confident because of that. I think in general that experience has boosted my confidence just as a person, and just knowing what I'm capable of, mostly because of the relationships that I built. So that was probably a pretty key thing. And then honestly in college, things kind of changed, because my first couple semesters I was really pursuing all the things that I did in high school, like leadership opportunities and good grades and titles and being fancy things, and friendships and being cool and all the things that freshmen look for. And I kind of got all those things by the end of my freshman year. I was part of UC mock trial and was doing really well there.
I remember that.
That was really
How long did you do that for?
I just did it for a year.
Right.
I did UC mock trial for a year. And honestly, I did it pretty well, and I did a pretty good job, so I was feeling cool about that.
Yeah, you did.
I don't know, I was pretty active in, like, Bearcat Buddies and I became an honors ambassador, and I got this job downtown with a nonprofit. It was feeling swanky about that.
Swanky.
Yeah. And my grades were good. But honestly, I got all of that, and I was still really, not unhappy, I wasn't unhappy, but I was unsatisfied. I was very dissatisfied at that point, because I had all the things that I thought that I wanted. And I had an awesome roommate. Some really awesome roommates my freshman year.
Who dat? Who's your roommate?
Kat.
Yes.
Kat was a really awesome roommate, so I had really good roommates. I had, I was developing some different friendships, and that was good. So it was weird, because I got to that point and wasn't happy. And what moved forward from that is that at that time I was involved in a campus ministry called H2O. Like, I went every week to the service. I went every week to the, like, small group kind of thing. But I got to the point in my second semester where I was, like, unsatisfied, and I felt like one of the things that I wanted to do was not do as much mock trial, not do as much of my work at this nonprofit, because I was working way too much, and I wanted to be more involved with H2O, because there's something going on there that was, like, really cool, and I was, like, not really part of it yet. I was like, what's happening? Like, these people are really awesome. They really love each other. They are genuinely, like, full of joy and seem to be a really awesome community. I'm really confused, and I want to be part of it. And so I went into my second year of college, and I feel like my second year of college was really formative, because I really started getting involved in H2O, but mostly because I for the first time in my life said no to things that I actually wanted to do and liked doing, mock trial for one, but it took up way too much of my time. I didn't love it. Like, even though I was good at it, I finally said no to it because it was like not what like made me like, you know, lit a fire underneath me and stuff like that. And so I finally started saying no to things, and I became a lot happier as a result of it and got to do more of the things that I felt like I actually wanted to do that did light a fire underneath me. I got involved with H2O more and really found a passion for just spending time with people like one-on-one and like building relationships with them. And I would say namely that is because during that time, my second year, when I realized I was unsatisfied, what I realized I needed to be satisfied was like Jesus. Like I realized that like I didn't understand, and like I was really seeking more. I was seeking something, and that wasn't working. Like I was trying to fill my life with all these things, and that wasn't working. And what I realized that what I needed was God, and I had been denying that up to that point. And when I finally understood what God had done for me, how much God loves me, like that He's my Savior, that He like has saved me and wants to give me like abundant life. Like when I found that and latched onto that, I like there was this peace, and I like what there wasn't that dissatisfaction of trying to find all these other things to fit that, because I realized that all along I was looking for God. And once I found that and found a community of people in H2O that I could like pursue that with, like the answer wasn't H2O and like getting involved in one more thing. Like the answer was just like seeking more of God. But I got to do that through H2O. So I got to really disciple young women. So I spent a lot of time that year just like getting coffee with people and talking about Jesus and just loving on people. And that whole experience of realizing like, okay, these things I thought were good things, and they were good things, but I was trying to fill my life with them in order to feel like purposeful and good and happy and excited, and it didn't work. And then I found God, and I found purpose in like trying to love people really well and serving people and serving God and letting myself feel loved by God and just sitting at His feet. And that's the kind of stuff that filled me up. And so that's how I wanted to spend my time. Like that was an experience that probably will forever impact the way that I spend my time, instead of trying to fill it up with accomplishments and titles and good grades. Like I'm going to try to do well in life, sure, because I think that's glorifying to God. But more importantly, I'm going to spend as much time as possible like running after God and spending time with Jesus and spending time with people and trying to like make His name known. So that is something that has shaped me and will forever shape me, because I'm going to be running after God for the rest of my life, as opposed to those other things that I thought would fill me up and didn't. And I feel like that's probably the most important of all of those things, because that's going to impact like what I do, how I do it for the rest of my life. And so to this point now, that's kind of still where I am. Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know, in terms of like, you know, people or things, or the way that I live my life, is probably most by the idea of like love God, love people. Like that kind of sums up like what I want to do with my life and how I'm gonna live my life. There are a lot of things I can do, but throughout all of those things, whether it's a nonprofit, grad school, communications, abroad, here, like I want to love God and I want to love people.